All right, good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's January 21st. This is our special call meeting. Let's start with Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I think Jim is going to lead us in that tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we ask you to guide us. We ask you to watch over us. We ask you to watch over the townspeople as this cold weather comes in. We ask you to give us the wisdom to make the right decision. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, we have the agenda in front of us. Are there any modifications?
We need to add number 5. We need to talk about the Community Development Advisory Board.
All right, so we will put that on new business number 5. Everyone's good with that? All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Any others?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to also include a closed session to discuss personnel at the end of the meeting.
All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. Those two changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
As amended.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. New business number 1, Jeff, you get to come talk to us about downzoning.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Tonight, myself and maybe the town attorney can answer your questions about recent legislation that the state passed pertaining to downzoning. Essentially, what occurred is there was some legislation that defined downzoning as, sort of limited what a city or town or county can do with as a result of zoning text amendments and zoning map amendments. For Angier, we don't initiate rezonings for the most part, and we don't create new zoning districts, routinely. So the change really won't be that substantial for us. What we have done recently in last year is change some text amendments to the zoning ordinance as it relates to parking and conditional zoning, whereas we had some uses were special use permits and now they're conditional zoning requirements. So for us, that the legislation won't be substantial because we're not initiating zonings. What we will have is more conditional zoning requests where we get explicit signatures from all property owners whenever a rezoning comes through, especially if the rezoning that is requested is a downzoning where uses are eliminated or reduced from what currently is on the books and what currently can occur on that piece of property, or if density is reduced. We don't have a lot of backward zonings or rezoning requests where you have an R10 and they're trying to go to R30. So that again doesn't really apply to Angier. But what we will see, what I could see happening is or occurring is after the comprehensive plan process, there will be some recommendations from the committee and from the plan process itself to maybe look at our current zoning districts and reimagine those to fit what the comprehensive plan will show for us. And if the current legislation stays the same, we may not be able to rezone parts of town into new zoning districts without consent of all the property owners. And really, that's what the legislation is geared towards, is consent. Rezonings can occur, downzonings can occur. The consent has to be there. So, that whenever you're talking about multiple properties or text amendment changes that affects all the town, having consent from all property owners is unlikely. So, those doesn't say that you can't downzone something. You just have to have consent from all those property owners. But for the most part, for Anger, this really isn't going to, this legislation won't change for us. There was another provision in the legislation that went backwards in time, sort of retroactively, and we had not done any rezoning or downzonings that would have affected that, or even text amendments within that time frame. So we're good on that. So there's nothing that we've passed in the past last year that this legislation affected. So we're pretty good there. As you, in the paper from the School of Government, you all have in the packet, this is still new law, still interpretations that will be made. There's still talk that this will be readdressed in the new legislation when the sessions get started. So it's a to be determined kind of thing. But right now, for us, I don't see this legislation being very substantial for the town of Anger. And I can answer, or Dan can answer, any questions that you all may have from the readings.
I think most of the cases that we see of any kind of zoning changing really has got to do with the sale of a property.
Yeah.
In which case the owners would be consenting anyway.
Right. That's right. Yeah. What it's done for me procedurally and sort of in-house is make sure that I have every single property owner sign an application. So the two that we did earlier this month, those conditional zonings, I went back to the applicant and said, I need every signature of the property owner before it gets to you all. And I got those. So, in the past, we sort of allowed one person to sign it and not all of them. It will be on me and staff to make sure that we have every signature of property owners. So that may be a challenge if there's multiple property owners, if it's an heir property. Mm-hmm. But current legislation says everybody, and I don't want to jeopardize a rezoning or a project on not having all the signatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Jeff? I know this is kind of a new thing. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Where in town, if this would take effect, or where would it affect us in town here?
So this would be anywhere in town, anywhere where our zoning ordinances and maps touch any property, and then any requests that come to you all for a zoning that would change density or uses, that would be down zoning. So where the property density would be affected, really. And then
If you're making it more restricted, everyone has to consent.
right. So if we were to say everybody has to have 6 parking spaces for their homes, that might be something that we can't do anymore. So I don't think that would be the case, but that may be a problem for those types of changes that we've contemplated in the past. I wrote in the memo, it sort of freezes the zoning ordinance as it is written today until you have consent from a property owner, especially for like a conditional zoning that's related to a plan unit development. So we added uses to the Commerce Park zoning district last year. In the reverse, we could not take uses away from Commerce Park with this new legislation. So that would be a change, or any other zoning district that we have. We've contemplated maybe taking away, types of residential units, townhomes, or apartments from certain zoning districts. We wouldn't be able to do that now. So that's when I say frozen, I feel like that's what the legislation has done. It's frozen our current zoning ordinance unless we do get consent from all the property owners.
And if we want to make some sweeping ordinance change, we'd have to have consent of everyone in the town.
Yeah,
So
everyone in
if
town.
If it's a zoning,
Yeah.
Zoning only?
well, if you're making it more restrictive zoning.
Right. If legislation doesn't change, as sort of rumored, and we go through the comprehensive plan process, what we could do is add zoning districts to our zoning ordinance, but not zone anyone into that zoning district, and have folks voluntarily zone their property into a new zoning district that is supported by the town and by the comprehensive plan. So that's an alternative that we might have to address a year from now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank y'all.
All right, let's move to number 2, budget amendment number 8. I think Derek's going to talk to us about that one.
Evening, Board, Mayor. Basically, this is a budget amendment to move money from non-departmental over into each individual department. So the software that we have and what we do with longevity pay and the stipend for the cell phones, it runs through payroll. And to be able to do this properly, it needs to run through payroll through each individual department and each individual employee. So we're basically taking money that was already allotted in non-departmental and dispersing it amongst all the departments individually. So that's pretty much the layman's terms of it. So any questions?
I appreciate the layman's term. All right, if nobody has any questions or discussion, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve budget amendment number 8.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Derek. Number 3, that's you too.
Yep, that's
Town
me.
facility naming policy.
Yeah, our town attorney requested that we put together a policy with the naming rights, since we have so many facilities and needs with facilities and construction and all these new things coming online. Dan wanted us to put a policy together, a kind of a naming rights sponsorship policy. You have in front of you kind of a draft that I put together. I kind of stole from Holly Springs, Cary, and Morrisville, and kind of took the highlights from theirs that I thought would work best for us. If you look at section 2, paragraph 2, that's probably the biggest thing on there. That's the dollar amount. I left that blank because I want you guys to kind of direct me on what y'all prefer, what y'all's pleasure is on that. Holly Springs, their number's $25,000. So anything $25,000 or below is at the discretion of the department head / town manager. Anything above $25,000 has to be presented to the board and go in front of the board for a vote. And I believe Morrisville was $5,000. And Cary's was really vague. It was like $1,000 to $500,000. And it was more like theirs addressed like sponsoring like a fall festival or something like that, some of their other stuff. It was more, the naming rights part of it was really vague. So you guys can decide whatever amount y'all want to decide. And anything that's, of any significance, I would think is going to go in front of you guys anyway. But I would like some direction on what you guys are thinking on that. And if you have any other questions about it, about the rest of it, you can feel free to ask.
So regarding the dollar amount thing that you were just speaking about in section 2, I can see that you may want to split town assets and special events, because I think personally there could be some more leniency on naming events. It's a very short term thing that happens once and it's over. Whereas naming town assets, we might want to have a lot more.
Mhm.
I think kind of at least have it brought in front of us
Yeah, I
to
mean,
hear what a town
fixed
asset would be
structure.
named.
You would,
Yeah.
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 And then like if somebody wanted to sponsor the trunk or treat, say a business wanted to come in and,
Yeah.
you know, wanted to sponsor a trunk or treat, you know, you might want to, I understand that part. Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way.
So there might, I could see maybe us splitting the wording up or splitting that paragraph into two, one for assets and one for events. I wouldn't know where to start with dollar amount right now, but I think for me, town assets would be like almost any dollar amount. If it's something that's going to be named for several years, like we kind of talked about last time, then I think I would want to know about it at any rate. Events, I think we could come up with a
Yeah,
number where
I mean,
it's
and
at
just for
discretion.
example, you guys voted on the sponsorship amounts, naming rights amounts, a couple meetings ago,
Mhm.
and there's a part in there for park benches that your family could sponsor a bench, and that was
Mhm.
$5,000 to sponsor a bench, and obviously we're going to have to come up with some type of contractual agreement that they're going to maintain it, and and if it dry rots or needs to be replaced, who's responsible for replacing? Is the town responsible for replacing, or is the family that purchased it, or the business that purchased it? I get all that. We're going to have to get in some logistics with that, but I don't know what the dollar amount is either. I don't know, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah. You guys have any thoughts?
Think about that.
I'd have to go back and look at all your numbers, but if benches were at 5, like I think I'm okay.
That is the
with-
lowest thing that we've got listed right now, and that
I'd be okay with a bench being sponsored without having to come to us.
right. I mean, Dan, do you have any input on? You want any input on this?
I mean, I think the idea of the policy was just so that, we're not granting and rejecting without some basis. So someone can't say we're doing it arbitrarily. So I think the dollar amount is entirely within the discretion of the board. Or what you want to have come before you. We just want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is transparent and, that someone applying can understand why they will or won't be accepted.
Right.
Now, is that going to be every year or for X amount of years? The sponsorship.
I guess it will be on a case by case basis, as far as like sponsorship or for an event or a function or whatever would be like on a case by case basis. We do have the policy that you guys adopted for the dollar amounts. That was like for anywhere from 4 to 6 years.
So if we're okay with 5,000, then that would take away the need to separate event sponsorships from that, because I think it'd be unlikely that a singular event sponsorship would be more than $5,000 anyway.
I mean, if there's any question or any concern or any type of, thing that pops up, it's probably going to come in front of you guys anyway. I mean, just to make sure everything's covered and that you got your best blessing on it. So y'all thinking 5,000?
I'm okay with that. Well, we'll let them weigh in and see, or if they want some more time. don't want to put anybody on the spot.
Yeah, because we're not voting on this tonight.
No, this is a draft, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's why I'm standing here. I wanted y'all's input.
I
So
think
you-
as
I
it
guess-
as it aligns with the already established fee schedule for sponsorships, you know, you would want this to reflect that. So, I don't want my yes hindering someone being able to pay for a bench. So
Right.
I wouldn't want to slow that process up. You know, I think certainly as they grow in their give, they will expect some more red tape, I guess. But in the circumstances it pertains to a bench, I don't know that, you know, I would trust that your Parks and Rec board is able to vet some of this as well and be a part of that process, because I think they're very useful in that. So
Yeah, and they were okay with the 25,000 that Holly Springs had, but they were also like, well, we really don't know. They were kind of like y'all. We don't know where to start on this.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed it last Thursday night, and I told them. So I said that's why I intentionally left the dollar amount off,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want anybody with any preconceived notions on what they thought it should be or shouldn't be. You know, because I really don't have an opinion on this. I don't know what the best place to start or whatever would be.
Ballpark.
I mean, have we even delved into this
and
arena?
we're getting into uncharted territory here.
Yeah.
I mean, we really are. I mean, we've never, you know, we've never really tried to really go after the big fish. I mean, mainly it's banners, you know, for $600-800. It's a sponsorship for a league or two leagues or teams or whatever.
and as the need
Most of them
arrives,
under
as-
$1,000.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I might make a suggestion. If everyone's all right with it, we can use 5,000
As a base.
as a base, right? And then when we come to approve it, if we think any differently, we can amend just
yeah,
that
I mean, they
number
can always,
or
you guys can always change it at any point that you guys
Yeah.
deem necessary. That's not.
yeah. So are you guys all right with moving forward for now? At least, you know, we're not approving it tonight, but just giving them
Let's give
some
them something to
direction.
start with, yeah.
Yeah. You okay with that?
Okay.
Well.
So 5,000.
Yeah.
Any other questions about it? And a lot of it's just, you know,
And I
Mhm.
think dividing your assets from your events as they pertain, because the value of them will be starkly different.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and we still want to be able to, you know, like you guys were talking about, if like First Federal, they sponsor our flag football league every fall, and we don't want to have to slow them down by
Mhm.
bringing that to you guys. Obviously, you guys are good with First Federal Bank sponsoring our flag football league or whatever. So I mean, some of it's kind of common sense, and you know, but I understand. That's why we're here.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
All right, number 4, Jimmy. He's got the town-owned facility maintenance policy for us to review.
Good evening, Board. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Before you is the action form and the town-owned facility maintenance policy, which we made changes from the last time we met. So if you see where you want to make some more changes to that, now's the time to do that before we make that official. So we're open for any recommendations or suggestions. But like I said, at last meeting, we did make the changes that came across. But so we're
Okay.
open to any suggestions.
Have all of you guys seen this one? Okay. We've got a newly revised one here, and I'll read the sections just so they're in the record, so we could still make a motion to approve this. Basically, it just gets a little more specific, and I can understand why on the windows and doors, because stuff like that gets expensive. So, if you guys all right with it, I'll read the changes here. The first 2 sections, purpose, definitions, they remain the same. Under maintenance section, there's proposed to remove the words or replacement. So it would read, shall mean the routine care of existing items within the facility. Then Then there are a couple paragraphs that are added, and I'll just go ahead and read them here. After the first paragraph in maintenance, it further defines basic building window maintenance includes regularly inspecting windows for cracks and damage, cleaning the glass at least twice a year, cleaning and lubricating the window tracks, replacing old weather stripping, sealing any gaps, and addressing any signs of moisture buildup or damage promptly, replacing cracked or broken glass, not window replacement. Basic building door maintenance includes regularly checking and tightening all hardware, lubricating moving parts like hinges and rollers, cleaning the door surface, inspecting weather stripping for damage or wear, and checking for cracks or signs of damage on the door itself. For garage doors, this also involves cleaning the tracks and testing the door opener safety features, not replacement of doors. And finally, basic building electrical maintenance involves regular inspections, testing, and repairs to keep electrical systems safe and working properly. An electrician may be required to sign off. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that from there on it's still what's in the agenda.
Okay.
So I think it makes sense that if we need to be replacing windows on a building, then that might be a bigger task that the board might want to.
Right, because you may get into something, once you get the window out, you may run into some
Right.
larger issues. Yes, sir.
So, I don't see any fault in being this specific. It just helps make everything clear. And so if you have got a faulty weather strip, then you know very clearly that that can just be fixed.
Yes, sir.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, but if the window becomes broken, I mean, that's common sense for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Usually we have any issues like that are the small windows at
Right.
a depot where we're just replacing the
glass.
12 by 12
Yeah.
glass.
And I don't know that we've had, or I'm not aware of a case where a whole building has needed new windows. That would be a large expense. You might. You've been here a lot longer than me, but
Well,
I have not lived through a case like that. But I can understand that, if this building needed all new windows, then that's something that would come to the board.
correct. And that would be something if we did some type of remodeling, that would either be in our budget or bring back before the board anyhow. So,
Okay. Any other input or questions for Jimmy while we got him up here?
I'm happy with it.
Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised town maintenance policy. All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. And we're good.
I hand you something for once.
Thank you, Jimmy.
all right, thank y'all.
All right, number 5, we have added Community Development Board. And I didn't write any more than that, so Jim, you added that one.
Yeah, it was brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago, and we looked into it a little bit further. We've received some concerns from the functioning board members, some issues which we won't go into depth with, and we need to remove one of the members.
So when you say we, that doesn't mean me. Nobody brought that to
No,
me.
it's just the commissioners.
All right. Well, the board serve at our pleasure. And so technically, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't need a reason to do it technically.
Right. Yeah, I think that's correct, and certainly harmony of the board and, someone impairing the functioning of the board is certainly a valid reason to remove.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think we have to name the person.
Okay, it's Kevin Hall. We need to have moved.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and remove him.
Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 2-1. It passes. Any others?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, that was the open session meeting, so we need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make the motion that we go into closed session.
All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, guys.